Aloha and welcome to the Applying to Graduate School Physical Sciences and Engineering program. This is a panel conversation that is part of the 2021 Leadership Alliance Virtual Professional Development Series. We are happy that you have joined us and look forward to answering your questions and giving you information about applying to graduate programs. I'm Dr. Amber Noguchi, and I am the Director of Undergraduate Research and Pre-Professional Programs at Chaminade University in Honolulu, Hawaii. I will be the moderator for today's event, and it is my pleasure to share this time with today's panelists. And panelists, please join me on the screen. I will let them introduce themselves, starting with Dr. Karen Fisher.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here with you. So I'm a professor at Brown University. I've been at Brown for about 30 years. In terms of my research, I use the waves that emanate through the earth from earthquakes to image the Earth's interior. And I love teaching at all levels. I teach intro courses through grad classes. And one of my very favorite things is that I am a co-coordinator of the REU, the Research Experience for Undergraduates program, between my department, which is the Department of Earth, Environmental, and Planetary Sciences, and the Leadership Alliance. So it's a great collaboration, and we really love working with the students from all across the country who come to join us each summer. And I'm speaking to you today from my home outside Providence, where I live with my wife. And I'm really looking forward to answering your questions today.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. Dr. Jorge Ramos, can you please introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Jorge Ramos. I am the Associate Director for Environmental Education at Stanford University's Jasper Ridge Biological Preserve, which is, it's not a fake background, it's actually real. And so I teach courses on ecology and natural history here in California. And now my background is actually in carbon cycling and natural resources and ecology, but now I focus more my work on how different people, including students, how do they use outdoor spaces as learning spaces, and we do that also by combining a lot of our ecological methods here at the reserve. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos. I'd now like to invite Dr. Stephen Townsend to introduce himself.
And thank you very much. Hopefully everybody can hear me clearly. My name is Steve Townsend. Now I'm an associate professor of chemistry at Vanderbilt University. I got tenure 2 months ago, so I'm still basking in the joy of peaceful night's sleep. I'm a synthetic organic chemist by training, but here at Vanderbilt, interdisciplinary research reigns supreme. So my group merges synthetic organic chemistry with human milk science. So we're trying to tear apart human milk to figure out exactly how mom is able to protect her baby and see if we can apply those lessons to adult and child health. And I guess that's it. I'm a sneakerhead. If anybody is into sneakers, I have about 130 pairs of sneakers at the moment, and it makes none of my daughters nor my wife happy.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend. And a huge thank you to all of our panelists for being here today. The Leadership Alliance appreciates your time and your wisdom, and I'm looking forward to jumping into student questions. So I know that students have submitted questions. Please remember, you can also type into the live Q&A, button down there in the screen. In looking at the questions that were previously submitted, we have a bunch of different themes. So some focusing on research and how to figure out your topic, some specifically with regards to the application process and how to be a strong candidate, and then also in how to prepare. So I guess I would first like to go into how to prepare. So when you are thinking of going to graduate school, what are some things that students can do to prepare for graduate school if they aren't entirely sure what research area, and maybe they don't even have research experience yet? So what can a student do to just kind of prepare and, think about programs?
Yeah, should any of us go? Or
Yeah,
I'll dive.
anyone, yeah, just feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I'll dive in. So, my background, I'm from Detroit, and I went to a middle-sized public schools, about 25,000 students, middle size for the state of Michigan. Uh, but in my case, when I decided that I probably wanted to go to graduate school, I first turned to some of the faculty in the department to actually figure out what the graduate school game was about. And at that point, I got a variety of opinions about what was the purpose of advanced education and ultimately what it could do for my life and my career. And at that point, I had a lot of information, but they forwarded me immediately to graduate students because I think it's a universal opinion that nobody can tell you about graduate school better than graduate students themselves. So I think what I'm getting at here is that you want to be a heat-seeking person looking for information, and usually faculty, graduate students, and postdocs are the people who can really give you preliminary information to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's exactly the way to go about it. Talk to as many people as you can and get their different perspectives. I think another thing to think about is there are different kinds of graduate programs. There are PhD programs, but there are also master's programs, and the kinds of things that you would do to prepare for all of them are similar in terms of getting information about what are the reasons you might want to do a master's program versus a PhD program. How do those things fit into your career goals, your life goals? And like Steve said, I think the more people you talk to, the more diverse opinions you'll get. And that'll just broaden your understanding of what all the parameters are.
Yeah, like I actually was just walking around the campus, and I had heard that people do research, but I actually didn't know what it was. It wasn't until I actually saw like the name ecology in one of the offices, and I just walked in and knocked on the professor's door and was like, "Oh, I heard that research is important. If you want to become a scientist, do you need help with anything?" Um, and he actually ended up hiring me that summer. And that then sort of showed me that, like both Karen and Steve said, like, you don't have to do this alone ever, right? Like, don't think that this is a lone experience. And there's a lot of resources at your university. I went to a public state school in Texas, El Paso, it was like, I think 12,000, but ecology and the earth sciences were not that big. Geology was really big, but not ecology. So I just went and asked for, what are the resources there to start the process. But yeah, so it's good to just walk around and look for people.
And as a follow-up, how can, because you all mentioned, right, reaching out, talking to grad students, talking to professors. So do you have any recommendations on how to reach out, without feeling awkward and, a little weird or maybe even intimidated for some students, right, that don't normally interact with faculty?
I think that's a great question. And I think something to remember is almost all of the professors and grad students that you're going to run into to ask these questions, even if they seem busy, they're in the jobs they're in because they love science and because they love education. And if you love education, you love students. So even if somebody looks busy, remember that they're there because they care about you because you're a student. And that was something I used to tell myself when I'm actually a very shy, introverted person. I have a hard time, talking to people that I don't know well. And I remember being an undergraduate, and it's hard to get over that barrier of like, is this person going to want to talk to me? Is this person going to want to give me advice? But not 100% of the time, but a large percentage of the time, when I explained that, I was thinking about research, I was thinking about grad school, my experience was like Jorge's, that, then people are like, oh, okay, you're asking me about something that I can help you with, and they'll make a little bit of time. And if you run into somebody that is not helpful, that's okay. Don't take it personally. Find somebody else, because there are tons of people out there who can give you great advice.
As someone who's still on the, yeah, I don't know, I have gray hair, so I feel super old. Go to assistant professors. So in our department, at the moment, I think we have 15 or 16 research active faculty, and 7 are assistant professors. And so, yeah, those are the people. I think you can go to any faculty in our department, and that's the same for most departments. Even if someone might look intimidating, they likely aren't, right? So you sort of have to get over that hurdle and make that first step. But assistant professors look just like you, right? And most of them are very happy to give you a ton of advice and then point you in other directions if they don't have everything for you.
Yeah, and I would just add to both of them. Look up like student organizations that are related to your field, and then look up who's their faculty advisor, who is their faculty mentor. Because like I joined SACNAS, which was Society for Advancement of Chicanos and Latinos and Native Americans in Science, and I met a Latino professor, and he was able to navigate my process a bit better. And then I met amazing friends through SACNAS, like Dr. Amber Noguchi right here. Like we've been friends now for 10 years more. So yeah, I always say, again, don't do this alone. Find your peers and your friends.
And just one more quick thought as an introvert to all the fellow introverts out there. If talking to somebody new is scary, practice. So if you're shy about approaching somebody, jot down some bullet points of what you want to say and practice it in front of your mirror that morning. Just getting the words out of your mouth a couple of times really can help you feel a lot less shy.
Yes, that is really good advice, especially just saying it out loud, even if it's only to yourself in the mirror, it helps. My next question for the panelists is about how to choose a research program. So once you kind of get your idea of like what area you're interested in, what are things that students look for in a research program? Because I know there's some questions in the chat about maybe not having the exact coursework for the area that you want to go in, or maybe you have multiple interests. How do you find those programs, and what are key things to look for, to find your best fit?
Yeah, we could do a round robin and go each of us a point at a time. I'll start with the question of research interest and who you want to work with. Whenever I send any undergraduate out into the world to go to graduate school, we sort of have a requirement that wherever you want to go, there's at least 3 people that you want to work with. That was a requirement that was placed upon me when I was an undergraduate. And it's because, you need to have multiple options, and you can't, right, you never know what can happen. So the idea that you would go to one place to work with one person is a little bit risky. So I'll start the conversation off there just by saying it's good to have broad interests. And if you have, 3 or more faculty members that you're interested in working with in one department or university, then I think that's a good start.
Yeah, I can follow that one with actually, I'll share one slide of a deck that I put together. I won't show the whole slideshow, but this one is what I do for my students here. Maybe you can see this slide, and I'll see if I can present it from here. So, because we always say to students like, oh, look for that PI. Like I didn't even know what a PI was. I was like, oh, look for that main advisor. It's like, oh, what is like a PI is like the head of a whole lab. And it's like, it's really weird lingo that we use in academia. So this is sort of a list what I share to the students, like, start to look who that main advisor might be for your research project, that PI, that principal investigator, that it aligns with your work. But also look for the lab members in that lab, right? Where are they alumni? Where are they working? Are they all professors? Are they some in industry? Are they some in nonprofits? Are they journalists? Are they and always, like Stephen, Karen mentioned, talk to other people in that lab. And also what Steve mentioned, working in an environment, like how do the grad students work? Do they eat at their desks? Like, do they work on the weekends? Do they like see family? Do they treat vacations normally? What is a sense of community? Do they offer scholarships to organizations that are actually for underrepresented minorities or just for like some science conferences? And also, you choose. I tell some students you're gonna be in grad school for maybe 5 years, depending on the program. Choose an awesome city that's close to your house, close to your family. I am part of the LGBTQ family, and I chose cities where I was gonna feel included and there was gonna be a good community, especially Latinos, queers. And remember, talk to your friends about this. Don't do this alone. I'll keep repeating that one. So I can share all these slides afterwards.
I think those are great points. And I guess a way that I like to encourage students to think about it is when you're considering graduate programs, there's the fundamental question of what do you want to study? Like what are the questions, like when you wake up in the morning or like when you go to sleep at night, you're like, wow, that would be pretty amazing if I could work on that, if I could figure that out. But then that's also combined with what are your career goals? So for example, in my field, which is earth science, if you want a job as an academic, you could choose almost any topic and find a way to work on that as an academic. But if you want to work, say for example, in something that has to do with mitigating natural hazards, like let's say you're interested in a job with the US Geological Survey, or you're interested in weather and climate and you want to work on that in an applied way, say at one of the National Oceanographic Administration labs, then there are graduate programs that help you move in that direction. I mean, science is really flexible and life is really flexible. So don't get me wrong. You can change directions as you go. But when you're starting out, talk to that network of people we've already emphasized a couple of times and say, okay, well, if I go and work in this lab here on this problem, what are the career directions that's going to help me go in? And I think, that's an important thing to get advice on. And I think, as a young person figuring this out, almost the only way you can get that information is by talking to other people. I mean, typically it's like not written down anywhere. And then I think the points that Jorge made about work-life balance, being close to your family, having a network of friends and support, that is so important. Thinking of graduate school as something that is going to be a place where you have happiness in all aspects of your life, or at least you try for happiness in all aspects of your life, I think is really important as well. And a lot of that has to do with the advising style of the primary mentor you're going to have. Talk to that person's students. Is that an advisor that will talk to you every day? Is that an advisor that will talk to you once a week? Heaven forbid that's an advisor that only talks to you once a month. I don't advocate that approach. But sort of get a sense of what the working environment is like. And if that person's students, the people working with them now, are happy and they're like, wow, this person's a great mentor, we've got this great culture, we talk to each other, that is a key piece of information. So keep looking until you find a graduate program and a set of advisors that are going to give you that balanced, happy life as a grad student.
And to follow up on that, right? when students are looking for research advisors, right? They're trying to figure out labs to join. Um, do they need to have research experience in order to join that specific lab? And do they need, to have already identified that professor going in? Because some programs will allow rotations and things like that. So can you kind of explain more about that process of choosing an advisor?
Sure, I can go first on that one if you like. Um, I think it varies a lot department by department and program by program. So some programs will write down what the progression looks like. I mean, so if you look on their webpage, they'll say, students come in and they spend a year trying out different advisors or looking for projects. Other programs really match you with an advisor at the point that you're admitted, and some fall somewhere in between. If it's not written down on the website, then that's a question that you can ask of the people that you've contacted about potentially working with them, the faculty that you're inquiring about graduate programs with. Or most programs will have somebody with a title like Director of Graduate Studies. That's another person that you could ask for how their program is structured. Research experience is very important. If you don't have research experience, don't panic, it's okay. In my program, we do admit people who've never engaged in research. But even if you have the possibility of doing a research project that's maybe attached to a class, and therefore you can get a letter of recommendation from somebody that you've engaged in research with in some way, that is very, very helpful. So the fact that you're here in this professional development series is already a really, really good thing. And I'm guessing some of you are doing, internship projects, research projects this summer through the Leadership Alliance. That's fantastic. That's exactly what you should be doing. It teaches you about whether you like research and what kinds of research you find fun and rewarding. Are you somebody that likes building things? Are you somebody that likes programming on a computer? Are you somebody who likes being in a beautiful place like Jorge is and doing, work outside? What are the things that make you happy? And the more research experiences that you can get, help you figure out the combination that you want for your graduate program.
So I think so everything Professor Fisher said, 100%. I'll add one tangent because I think there's probably going to be some research experience deficiencies due to the pandemic. I'll give you the example of my first graduate student, Kelly Kraft, who graduated 2 years ago, postdoc at Harvard. She started her job at Abbott this week. And the first experiment she ever ran in lab was standing beside me because she went to Birmingham Southern College where they had no research experience. So why did we admit her? Because research experience typically reigns supreme. And I have some notes for you that I'll share from our faculty about what they look for in applications. Research experience was number one. In Kelly's case, she was a 4-year varsity soccer player. So when we did admissions, that was heavyweight because people who are varsity soccer players or former military, people who have external jobs from the university, this shows perseverance and dedication and right follow through. Additionally, in Kelly's case, she had a 91 chemistry GRE. So while we do not heavily factor in GRE scores in our admissions, you can't deny what a 91 means. So I think Kelly did all the things that she needed to do in order to make up for the research deficiency. She graduated with 13 first author papers. And so that is not common in chemistry. I had one paper when I graduated. So I think, right, she showed that, there's ways to get around what's standard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have, those are two great examples of what, in case you don't have research experiences. And I think what Steve mentioned is really important. If you can also show something that if you've had a job before grad school, if you show that you carry through, like that you start something and you finish something, that's really important. It's just, and that also goes for research experiences. Some people do research experience, and that doesn't mean that they're better than you. They could actually do a research experience, but actually not follow through with a good ending, a good presentation at the end, a good paper at the end. So don't invalidate that. Don't just think that if someone has a research experience, that means everything. There's people that don't take advantage of research experiences really well as well. So yeah, I'll put in the chat the link. Oh, so I was going to put a link in the chat of a website that has many resources of research experiences.
Awesome. 'Cause this actually is perfect for the next group of questions that we'll talk about, which pertain to the application process. So we had some questions be submitted about, how can you be a competitive applicant? What are the top three, I guess, like the heaviest weight of the application? And I know that people had already talked about the research experience, but can you expand on that? We also touched upon the GRE exam. And so maybe, also kind of give us a little update because, right, some programs ask for it and some don't. And then, of course, letters of rec. So recommendations on who to ask for your letters of recommendation.
I could jump in with a piece of one. Yeah, so starting with the rec letters, when I was talking to our admissions committee, because I emailed to sort of fish around for some answers, they talked about, they prefer your letters to come from research advisors. You did research because that's the number one priority. People who taught you in class are second. And the letters that don't go over well, about 15 to 20% of our applications come with a letter from a TA. And so don't have letters from graduate students. Yeah, that just doesn't go over well. In some cases, postdocs are okay, but we actually don't see that one too much. It's typically research and teaching faculty, and then graduate students. So you want someone with a degree to testify to your capabilities. So yeah, I guess we can, bat this question around.
Okay, so to talk a little bit about grades, I think in terms of grades, what I can tell you what we look for in my program, it is fine if, don't think you need to have like all straight A's. Obviously, the higher your grades are, the better. I would be not honest if I didn't say that was true. But what we really look for are people who have developed some background in the area that they've said they want to study. So, for example, if somebody was applying to work with me, you need some math, you need some physics, you need some computing. So, one of the first things I would do is look at their transcript or look at how they describe their courses and see, how far along have they gotten, and what are their grades in those courses. And it is okay if some of your grades are not so great. In particular, if those grades are in more challenging courses, and also if your grades have gotten better over time. I think some people, when they first get to college, it takes them a while to sort of figure out how to do the whole course thing. And so improving grades over time, I think, is a really good sign. But for a different part of our field, like let's say you were doing something more that's related to biology, then courses in biology and chemistry, might be more important. So I think, again, this comes back to the point of, as early as you can in the process, talk to people, faculty, graduate students, postdocs, about what are the kinds of courses that are important for different fields, and do that as early as you can. So if you have time, you can start to build some of those, into your course background before you apply to grad school.
And think someone mentioned GREs already, but I'll just make sure that at least here at Stanford, our programs that do work here at Jasper Ridge in ecology or earth, they're actually not required anymore. They're optional. So make sure you look into your schools. First of all, question why are they still requiring GRE? Because they're actually GRE. I mean, there's pros and cons for them, but I actually don't believe that they predict success in grad school. So question at least that when you're applying, talk to the PI of that lab if you're applying to that school. Also check, I had to take the TOEFL exam also because I was not an English speaker. So check when that one is due also. And there's on that slide deck I'll share with you all. I will also encourage you to make a timeline of when you're applying to grad school, because you're going to apply to many programs probably, and they all require different things at different times, like the statements, the the rec letters. There's application fees that you should all ask for waivers, and they also question why are they asking for that. And anyways, there's a couple things to look into. And when and do one of the main things I would suggest is really do get in touch, meet and get in touch with the person you're applying to work with, because they will be your best advocate in that committee when deciding when their ability to have a student that year or not. And if they do have an ability to have a student, they can be your best advocate in the application process.
I'm just going to put a plug in for the virtual recruitment sessions that are held on Thursdays and Fridays. Please do attend virtually, of course, because that's where you can talk to the program. You can actually ask them about what their GRE requirement is. If this is a top program that you're interested in, you can ask about what they view as a strong candidate. And sometimes they also do have those application fee waivers. So, I feel like every little bit helps, especially when you have to pay for fees and exams and then the whole shebang. So yes, so do consider attending those. Back to our application questions. We do have questions about the personal statements and the research statements. So panelists, if you can please share what kind of advice do you have as students prepare their personal statements and also their research statements? Like, what makes a strong statement?
I think we're all probably going to comment on this one. I'll talk about the personal statement. So research statements, it's a summary of your research. And with my undergrads, I'm heavily involved in that one. So I proofread it for them. The graduate students usually take the first pass. So I think that's actually the easier of the two documents because it doesn't allow a lot of freedom. The personal statement, our faculty has very strong feelings on this thing. And, after we read them, you want us to either be inspired or feel neutral. I say that because we often get some personal statements that come across either very immature, where someone's talking about, a volcano they made in the third grade for half of the document, or they come across as like a manifesto. And so you have to just be very careful, make sure people are proofreading these things. We like to have an introduction. Maybe you could tell us why you're interested in science, but give us a mature level, right? Something that happened during your undergraduate or high school days that was impactful if you want to do that. Typically, people then talk about their life goals and how graduate education is going to help you get there, what you bring to the table as a potential researcher, right? What type of colleague are you going to be? And then the special sauce, of course, for most departments, list faculty that you want to work with, right? It makes a huge difference. And in our department, when you list a couple of those assistant professors, it makes all the world's difference because that's the lifeblood of the department. And so if you express interest in those groups, and most people want to work with assistant professors, right? They're the young hotshots. But when you put those names down, it matters. So just be specific about what your goals are and who you want to work with.
I think that's excellent advice. And my answer to this is going to come back and answer in part the earlier question, the one we had just before as well. What is the most important thing in a graduate application? And I think the most important thing is to convey a real interest in the work of the person or people you're proposing to work with. You want to convey that you've thought about it deeply enough that when you say, yes, I want to spend 2 years doing a master's or 5 years doing a PhD, you really have that commitment. So it's that, and also demonstrating that you're somebody who is resilient, because graduate school has its ups and downs. You know, even in the best of circumstances, there are going to be times when your research isn't going so great, and you need to have a lot of internal strength. And describing how you've dealt with a situation that was challenging in the context of research is great. But as we've just said, not everybody has had the opportunity to be involved in research. So if you can draw on another experience where you can show how there was a challenge that you overcame with good thinking and maturity and personal strength, that also, I think, comes across really well in an essay. Some schools you would put that in the personal essay. Some schools, they kind of merge the essays together. So you'll have to tailor it to the individual program and how they script those out. But I think those things are really key. And I absolutely agree. You want to be very specific about the people you want to work with. So we haven't actually talked about this yet, but I think it's really key well, we've talked about it a little bit, but just a little bit to be more specific. Contact your potential advisors, have a good conversation with them, and go back and forth about possible research areas. And then you can take that information and incorporate it into your essay. So you can say, I would like to work with Professor so-and-so on X. Now, you don't want to be so narrow about what X is, because if you're too narrow, you might be, maybe the person you're thinking of working with, maybe they're moving in a slightly different direction. So you don't want to make it too narrow. So you want whatever X is to be big enough that it encompasses, the type of research you want to do, but not tying it so specifically to a narrow project that you're boxing yourself in terms of opportunities.
Yeah, and to be fully honest and transparent, I don't sit and review panels of these graduation committees, so I cannot pretend to know exactly what goes in them. But from what I experiences in the past and with my students here and with other faculty, they look for statements like what Steve was mentioning as well, like you're going to be a colleague with them in the future. So they want to start to read who you are professionally. Like, what is that motivation of that? And it's combined, like Karen said, right? It is that combination of you have that spark of curiosity, that's your scientific drive, but there's also that drive of your personal motivation of why you're pursuing this question. So you can go between both the personal and the scientific one, research statement, combining both, and each of them takes their own trajectory. But yeah, it's far from that, like what Steve mentioned, that childhood memory of, that you fell in a lake when you were 6 years old. I think that's going to be more of like, what question you came up with when you were doing that research experience, or when you were taking this course that opened your eyes to something new and different and challenging. So, and also lessons learned from mistakes are always important.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea to start at least one of your statements with just a couple of sentences that capture what you're excited about studying, and at some place in your essay also put in, what do you want your career to look like? Where do you want this research to take you? Are you thinking academia, industry, nonprofits? you know, and nobody's going to hold you to that, right? So nobody's going to come back 5 years later and say, whoops, you're not doing what you said. So just say whatever feels true to you at the moment that you're applying. And I just wanted to say one more thing going back to GREs, because I forgot to say it. Our program no longer accepts GREs, so you're not even allowed to submit them anymore. So that's Earth, Environmental, and Planetary Science at Brown. Other departments at Brown, some still require them, some still have them optionally. But this is just coming back to the point you should always ask. And if your GREs aren't so good, don't worry. I agree with what Jorge said. All of the research shows that there is a really bad correlation between GRE scores and success as a scientist.
Yes, and I'm also going to chime in just suggestions for when you're writing. You know, please give yourself ample time to think about what you want to write about, and then actually time to do the writing, like literally write. Because, right, the first time that you write something, it's definitely not polished. Sometimes I feel like, right, it's kind of like barfing your ideas out onto a paper, right? And then you have to organize and polish it. And personal statements and research statements, right, they go through many iterations. And so just give yourself enough time, and also enough time to get feedback from your advisors, your friends, your professors, right? So many eyes and many lots of feedback helps to just strengthen that or the writing statement. Okay, so next question I do have, for students that are not ready just yet to submit an application to a graduate program, like maybe they're considering going into industry, because we have had a lot of speakers talk about opportunities in industry, or maybe they want to take a gap year. What kind of advice do you have for students that are kind of on the fence and maybe not ready to apply just yet?
I mean, I just answered a question in the chat about that. There's not a right or wrong answer of taking a break or not in between. I took one because I actually, with a group of friends, remember, I always, we decided that we were a bit burned out from academia a bit. So we all took a year off, and then we all did promise to apply the following year. And it was before iPhones. So we got on a conference call one day and we're like, let's all hit submit. And I did put on the answer in the chat that working outside of academia, it actually, and I worked as a education coordinator for the Ecological Society of America, and it helped me structure what a work-life balance it was going to be. So it helped me build that for a year. And then when I got into grad school, I actually treated it as a job. I was like, okay, I can do this also 8 to 5. And some grad students might fall into this, let's just always be busy so we look more productive, but that doesn't mean they're actually productive. So I think working outside helps you build what a work-life balance could be, and then you can come back to grad school with that other skill on your pocket. So that's my advice.
I think taking some time off is a great idea. The advice that I give the students I work with is you should be at least 60% sure you want to go to grad school before you apply. You should be in the, if somebody made me an offer, I'm at least 60% likely to do this. If you're less than 50%, take some time, work, get some perspective on what's really important to you. And, there's time to come back. I think lots of times people who've taken a few years off will look even better to graduate programs because the person evaluating your application knows you went out, you did something else, and now you've chosen to come back and go to grad school. So that means you really want it. And And there are tons of fascinating things you can do with an undergraduate degree, teaching, nonprofits, education in all its different forms. We could spend all day on that particular topic, but there are lots of fun jobs out there. If you want to go to graduate school in science, having something that is at least tangentially related to science as your job in between is helpful, but it's not necessary.
And I'll just say everything that they said. I agree with 100%. I've had 16 undergraduates go on to grad school or professional school, and I think about 7 or 8 took some sort of a gap year. So I think it's perfectly normal, and you just have to make sure you're doing what's right and making the best decision for you. So what did I do? Well, I'll tell you. I grew up in a really poor family in Detroit, and there was zero things that would have been positive about me going to Detroit for 1 year after undergrad. Nothing good was going to happen. So I immediately went to graduate school because chemistry has saved me. So I needed to leave undergrad, go immediately to graduate school. I took 1 week off and started grad school in the summer. And right, because that was the hand that I was dealt in life. So I think, yeah, everything that we're saying is the same. You have to do what's right for you and play the cards that you're dealt, right? So some people will be able to take a gap year. Some people will need to take gap years. Some people can't. So you just sort of have to, make sure you have good advising from the faculty at your institution so that you can make the correct decision.
Yeah, and so to kind of continue along like this, imaginary timeline that I've kind of have in my mind about the process. So once students get to the graduate program, now can we talk about like what are the expectations? What is the rigor like? Because there are questions here that are asking about maybe doing summer courses on the side, or maybe starting early, right? Doing research in the lab the summer before you get to grad school, or even maybe doing outside things, right, in addition to grad school. So can you talk a little bit about like what to expect in grad school?
Make friends, make friends. I will never stop saying that grad school is a collaborative time for you to network, make friends, support each other. Don't ever try to do it alone. If you're starting to feel that, yeah, you're not there yet. So it's a really fun process if you're pursuing that both combination of your science question and your personal goals, and you're sharing it with others. I think sometimes you go through these, black holes of like, oh, I'm in this corner, data's not working. But even communicating that it's not working, going with your friends again, talking to your peers that it is not working, that helps you then maybe find a solution. And it's like the best time to be wrong. I always tell students like it's the best time to be wrong because you're gonna get stipends, money. Don't ever, okay, don't ever pay to go to grad school. Let's start there. So you're gonna end up getting paid to like be wrong and learn from like fixing mistakes. Like in ecology, we have a joke that you master like Lowe's and Home Depot and you master duct tape because you're always fixing field like equipment that broke and you're like solving things in the field. And um but so it is all up to you, right? No one's going to tell you how much you have to work. No one's going to tell you check on your times. No one's going to tell you, well, at least not in my experience, I shouldn't talk about everyone, but you build your own like rigor, you build your own progress, and you accomplish your own set goals and deadlines. The department is there to support you, hopefully, but it is all up to you. So again, talk to your friends, older grad students, postdocs, and ask how they navigated stuff. But I think it's like the best time to be wrong so you can learn from the mistakes and then answer questions.
Yeah, and I'll speak to the like extra class thing. So in chemistry, right? At least for most programs, almost all programs, you take somewhere between 5 and 6 classes during your first year, and then at least at Vanderbilt, we're a place where you have to do rotations, 3 individual rotations, unique rotations in 3 different labs. before you can join the lab. And so once you finally hit the first summer after your first year, it's research time. So the idea of summer courses would be pretty frowned upon, I think, in any physical science program, unless there's something related to your research. So, in our example, we're organic chemists, but we do microbiology. I don't know what a 96 well plate looks like personally. So to figure that out, students audit microbiology courses and we pick up these skill sets. But this is in addition to our research, not aside from our research. So it's a balancing act, but I would say, graduate school is everything that Jorge said is fantastic. It's the big show. You're trying to answer big, powerful questions. There's no penalty when you're wrong, but there's an awesome prize when you're right. And so it's just really fun, and it's your time to be aggressive and contribute something new to science.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of those points. I think maybe the biggest difference between undergrad and grad that sometimes people don't appreciate when they start grad school is that in grad school, people are going to expect you to be in charge of yourself. So as an undergraduate, you're kind of independent, but there are certain rules for what you have to do to get your degree, to pass a course. So those rules are a little bit more explicit. In grad school, hopefully you're going to have great mentors who provide you with some structure and good advice. But I think in almost every program, the expectation is that you're there because you want to learn and because you want to do research, and you're going to engage with figuring out what that path looks like. So people are going to be expecting you to be the driver of what you do, and they're happy to give you advice. Well, hopefully they're happy to give you advice and, provide some signposts along the way, but expect to be independent. And then another thing that I think you've heard us all say multiple times now is it's so important to have a full life. If your research and your courses are the only thing that you're doing, when you have some of the inevitable downs, they hurt a lot worse, right? But if you develop a good work-life balance, you have a strong support network from family and friends, you do things that make you happy outside of your courses and research, then when you have the inevitable lows, they're not as difficult. So having a balanced life, I think, is really important. And having people who support you through the whole process is equally important.
I got to chime in. That's so fundamentally important that in my office, I bought an espresso machine. And, people your age, you guys are strange. You drink so much caffeine, it's out of control. But I bring up the espresso machine because students are allowed to come in here to get unlimited Nespresso all day, so long as every time you get a capsule, you pay me with some form of information that's not related to chemistry. So people come in here and they talk about, right, some play they saw with their partner or some pair of shoes that they think I would like, and I probably won't because they're not Jordans. But needless to say, they come in here and we talk, right, because it's important to be the whole person. And I think if you go back to the purpose of university, right, we're building entire people, and it's not just a chemistry hermit who can only do a mechanism. So I just had to chime in on that because I think that was super, super spot on.
Yeah, and I know that we do have questions about funding, so I'm going to make another plug for our financial series, which is it's a two-part, 2 sessions coming up later on in the VPD series. So they will go into more detail about finances and also opportunities. But just quickly for now, I'll say, right, kind of Jorge mentioned that there are funding opportunities available, like fellowships, either through external sources, through your graduate program, which is another reason why, right, to talk to your program to see what they offer. And also specifically, myself, I should have introduced myself in the beginning. I got my PhD at the University of Washington, which is how I know Jorge. And I did get a fellowship that supported me for my whole, an external fellowship that supported me for my whole graduate program. But the program that I was in also had funding. So had I not gotten that external fellowship, I would have still been covered. And there are specific funding mechanisms for, you know, underrepresented students. Me personally, I was underrepresented and first generation and low income. So there are a bunch of, you know, funding opportunities out there. And I'm sure, you know, panelists chime in if you have any advice for funding.
Sure, I can take a swing at that one. So it varies by field, but I think almost universally in the sciences, PhD programs should be programs that pay you a livable stipend, that is a stipend on which you can live comfortably in the community where the school is at, and cover your tuition. If you get an offer from a PhD program that doesn't provide a living stipend and tuition, keep looking until you find a program that does, because most of them do. Master's programs, it's a little bit more variable. Master's programs in my field, so this is Earth, Environmental, and Planetary Science, master's programs that have a research component, so you're doing a master's thesis, a master's research thesis, those typically will also pay you, give you a stipend and cover your tuition. There's some more professional master's programs where you're taking more classes, maybe you're not doing any research or less research, and it's more about professional certification. Those oftentimes will expect you to pay your tuition and they won't pay a stipend. But even within those, you can often work out a deal to get stipend and your tuition covered by serving as a TA during your time as a master's student. So always ask about funding. I mean, even if you get an offer that doesn't include full funding, you can come back and ask the program and say, you know, look, I'm really excited about your program. I'd love to come here. Financially, I can't swing it with what you'd offered me. You know, are there opportunities to be a teaching assistant? Can you suggest fellowships that I might have access to? Yeah, so those are some thoughts on money.
Yeah, I just put in the chat that students, if you're interested in applying for fellowships that cover your tuition and your stipend, they're also due at the same time of grad school admissions, like the NSF GRFP and the Ford Foundation. So the good thing is that you can use some of your personal statement, research statements in all of them, but you do have to tailor them to each one of them, right? But you can get inspired by writing one, and then boom, you get all of them done. So just do make a timeline with your friends, make a timeline of when everything's due. Remember, your friends.
And so I know that we are coming up on time. We just want to be respectful of everyone's time and also the panelists. Thank you for spending your hour with us, sharing your words of wisdom and your experiences. I think Samantha will be emailing out contact info and also the slides to the Google Classroom. And so panelists, if you just have one word or sentence to share, words of wisdom to leave with our students here before we hang up or end the call.
Yeah, you know, my undergrad advisor, the last thing she told me when I left was that, you know, you're going to miss every shot you don't take. So seize every opportunity that's in front of you.
I think you all know mine. Don't do this alone. Do it with friends.
And I agree with Jorge and Steve. It's great talking to you all.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.